Hi, so welcome back to Real Auto Reports right here from Real Auto Ranch. We've finally gotten a fairly calm day and some sun, so here we are back out here in the back of the ranch to give you this real first impressions video on the 2014 Nissan Versa Note, all new for 2014, so there's a lot to talk about. So let's get started. All right, so from the front, what you're going to notice is that this vehicle has quite the kind of front appearance. It has these big headlight assembly areas. It has the grille here, which is actually color keyed with a little bit of chrome, setting it off in that big Nissan badge for the branding. But really, with this all new design, what you're going to notice the most is this sharp rake up here on the windshield and this short front overhang. Notice how short this front end is from the middle of the wheel to the front bumper. It's actually on a fairly long wheelbase, but they've given you very short overhangs in the front and the rear to make sure that this vehicle is maneuverable, parkable, and so that you can really tell where it is while you're driving it. Now, from a looks perspective, it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but it is pretty tidy and nice, just like you would expect from most Nissans, and it does follow the design language of the rest of the brand. So I think they get an A for this one up in the front. Let's go take a look at the side and see how it looks over there. All right, so from the side, one of the first things we want to point out is a design element that a character line, as they call it, that they put in this design. This is what Nissan calls it. They call it the squash line. Yes, like the game. You got to do something when you're coming up with these creative marketing things, right? So here's the squash line. It comes through the middle of the belt line back here, but it dips below the front door handles. You'll see it make a turnaround, hit down here, and then come back up. So you see it goes around. There's a little bit of a flat spot here. It's supposed to simulate the ball hitting the wall, hitting the floor, and returning back to the player. And it's kind of a neat detail. It's neat that they put some thought into it and came up with the whole story that went with the look of the package. And what it does for the car is it gives it some interest in the side. Instead of just being this flat slab side design, it's got some nice curves here. There's a little bevel here. You've got that detail. It scoops in and out. It gives the vehicle some character for sure, which is why they call it a character line. You have this lovely sloping roof coming up from the front and around the top. It has a great drag coefficient. That's why the body pretty much looks the way it does. It has a very low drag coefficient for better fuel economy. In the SL package, you're going to get the upgraded 16-inch alloy wheels here that you see. And also we have some other tech features we'll show you inside, but you also have the heated outside mirrors here. Notice the antenna back here. This does have XM satellite radio and the navigation package. And of course you have your rear spoiler. Also notice here these tail lights where they fit into this design line here. They kind of point and they are dimensional here. When you get up and look at the car in person, make sure you take a look at all the little bits of detail. The other thing I'll point out is that it does have the button right here on the door handle for the keyless entry and the keyless push button to start, so it's got an intelligent key. There's a lot packed into this pretty small car, and I think Nissan's done a nice job of giving it a good look and really good volume room. Look how flat these doors are so you can get in without cracking your head when you're taller, which is a nice feature. Let's go take a look at the back. All right, so what you'll notice from the back is pretty much how small this car is. It is an in-town commuter car, and you can see that they've given it some detail here with this rear spoiler. Notice this notch out right here, which is where your rear windshield washer will be for the rear wiper, because you do have a pretty flat door. This does develop, we've been driving it in the rain, although it doesn't look like it today. You have this windshield wiper to help keep that clear, because it does develop a lot of water buildup back here, and you can imagine if it's snowing and all of that. So it's nice to have that. You have your rear backup camera hanging down here. Another great feature, and one that I'll mention now, is the around view monitor. This car does have the around view monitor, and it's the only one in its class and size to have it, which is pretty cool. On such a small car, it helps with parking in the city and just making sure you don't clip this nice body, which is color keyed, so it is going to require repainting if you damage it. Now, of course, you have your lift up gate here, and notice how big this actually is. I'm just going to crawl in here, and you know, I'm not small. but I can get in the back here, and if this package deck wasn't here, I could shut the door and wave at you. But we will refrain from doing that today. The point is that it is actually a more capable car, and you can get a big roller suitcase, a big check suitcase in the back here, plus a duffel and some other bits and pieces, which makes it pretty darn flexible for those of you who do need to do a couple airport runs or like to do shopping at Costco, etc. Let's go take a look at the interior, then we'll take a look under the hood, and finally take this thing out on the road before we wrap it all up. All right, so from in the interior, I would say from the driver's seat, but I'm actually sitting in the back to make a real first impressions point. This vehicle, the seat is set for me to drive, and I'm about 6 foot. Normally in a small car like this, in a small hatch, if I tried to get in the back seat, my knees would be up around my ears, and I would be a very unhappy bunny. But in this case, this vehicle has some excellent rear legroom, and you can see that you can have the seats back and be comfortable up in the front with a lot of legroom. I'm actually driving farther back. It's got a lot of arm room and it feels really roomy, but my rear passengers, even my father who's 6'2" and a big linebacker of a fellow, he can get back here and be super comfortable, even with suitcases in the trunk and taking people to the airport, which we've all tested so far in our real first impressions and on the road to our real video, which you'll want to stay tuned for coming up down the road. Some other things I want to mention about this interior, though, is that you have a lovely interior cloth that comes in this, even in the SL package. You have some nice detail in the blue and black that's in this vehicle, and the contrast stitching that is along the interior. It just doesn't feel like a cheap economy car. I think the days of those are really gone. So this is going to be a great in-town car. It's got comfortable seats. You know, would we like a little bit more lumbar support and bolstering and stuff like that? Sure, but is it livable and comfortable on a daily basis? So far, we think so, but we'll tell you more in the real video. Until then, let's go check out what's under the hood, and in the real video we'll tell you more about the navigation, heated seats, and all the other features that are inside this car. But no, it's a nice layout, it's simple to use, and it'll be serviceable for years to come. So let's go check out the 1.6 liter under the hood. All right, so under the hood here, what you're going to find is the gerbils running around at great speed trying to make power. No, I'm just kidding. It's actually a 1.6 liter 4-cylinder engine under the hood here, making about 109 horsepower, mated to that CVT transmission that Nissan knows and loves. And frankly, as I say in most of our Nissan reviews, is probably one of the best CVTs on the market. And it's no longer just a continuously variable in the way that it used to be. Now they actually have some different patterns in the way that it holds the gear so that you get the most power out of the vehicle. But let's not kid ourselves, this vehicle is all about economy, not about sports and performance. So even with the flashy spoiler and the 16-inch wheels, this vehicle is going to be fairly slow off the line, and it's going to, you know, not break any land speed records. But it will do some great things in the mile per gallon department at 31 city and 40 highway with a 35 mile per gallon combined, which is great for this class, and in some of those numbers, class leading. Now, that's all just a big way of saying that this thing will save you some dinero at the pump. So make sure that if this is the type of car you're looking at, that you cross-shop it with the other ones in the competition, and you might find that the Nissan has the edge, especially in the mile per gallon department. But what we need to do now is go take this thing out on the road. So I'm going to put the hood down, and we're going to jump in and see how it drives. All right, so here we are in the 2014 Nissan Versa Note, and this is the real first impressions from the driver's seat. We're going to hit the road here and see what this vehicle is all about. Now, the first thing is the power. So, yes, I paused there for effect. That is about 40 miles an hour, 39, 40 or so, right out of our driveway there at Real Auto Ranch. And what you're going to notice is that this vehicle does have quite a bit of noise. It's why I kind of jokingly make fun of the whole, hamsters or gerbils running around inside of the vehicle. Now, you can see that from where I'm driving that this vehicle has plenty of room for you long-legged and long-armed folks. It's a comfortable vehicle to drive. You have very little obstructions, but what you're going to notice is that because of this rake of the windshield, from a first impressions perspective, you have a little bit of a blind spot right about here for the drivers that are sitting farther back. And as you come forward as a shorter driver, you're going to notice that becomes more acute up here in your peripheral vision. So just keep that in mind. It steers well, it drives well. You'll notice the suspension's a little light and bounces a little bit around bumps and curves. It is a little bit, the spring rate is a little bit soft for me personally, but I like a more sports vehicle. So I think generally from a driving experience, it's going to meet the expectations of most people looking to buy a small in-town car. It's easy to see out of. There aren't a lot of blind spots. Your typical one over your right hand shoulder here as you look back across the back of the car, but because it's so small, I doubt you're going to lose too many things back in that blind spot particularly. Now, you noticed I was checking over my left shoulder. You can see out the rear window over your left shoulder fairly easily at my height. Now, when you go to a shorter height, this pillar back over here, the side pillar, might be a little bit of an obstruction. All in all, it's a nice driving vehicle, and the CVT isn't too, it isn't too loud or annoying. But what you are going to find is that this is not going to be a sports car. It's going to produce some noise on heavy acceleration, and even though it does get good gas mileage, as we've discussed, you're going to find, at least if you're like me, that when you want to get up to speed, you're going to have your foot on the floor most of the time. And I think that's just one of the things about these kind of cars. We'll have more coming up for you in the real video, the real review, so stay tuned for that. And also stay tuned for the real wrap-up coming up next. So that's the Real First Impressions video edition on this 2014 Nissan Versa Note. This is all new for 2014, as we've been discussing, and it brings the 5-door option back to the Versa model line for the 14 model year. This Note is, well, your small, in-town, entry-level car. So with that, you wouldn't expect too much luxury from it, yet with the SV model and the SL package and the tech package, you can get quite a bit out of this car, as you can see from our Real First Impressions. This vehicle will do 31 in town, and what they say is a class-leading 40 out on the highway. It has about 109 horsepower coming from a 1.6-liter 4-cylinder engine, and is mated to, well, what you would expect in Nissan cars, a CVT transmission, continuously variable transmission. All of that means that this vehicle has some power, but a lot of economy, and some cool features like the navigation, the heated seats, and, well, it's got these new looks that we talked about too. So we'll have more details for you in the real video, the real review. I'm Jonathan McGrew, right here from Real Auto Ranch. This is Real Auto Reports, and we will see you down the road.